Good morning. Welcome to Quantum's Liberty Day 76. It's a 16-week countdown. Good morning, birdies. DeStress series and immune boost. And today with us on the phone we have, there's your water, birdies. We have Wren. Wren is in 7th grade at in Connecticut. And she has an interesting story to share and tap with us about. So what Wren was talking about was she has a teacher in their town who, during the beginning of the pandemic, let's start tapping because this is about lowering our cortisol levels so that we can think about the next best thing to do. So when we're tapping on these 5,000-year-old meridian endpoints, what we're doing is we're slowing down the signaling to the amygdala, which is our fight, flight, freeze center, which sends oxygen down to the arms and legs so that we can freeze or fight or flight from danger. And so when we're tapping on this point in particular, the psychological reversal point, then what that is doing is it's allowing us to have the images of the event that happened that Wren was talking about. Thanks, my dear, for bringing this up to our attention. Very important. So Wren had this experience, and to do the tapping, we slow down the firing to the amygdala. The neurons slow down. And then in that case also what happens is not only does the oxygen then stay in our prefrontal cortex where we can think about the next best thing to do, but when the amygdala triggers and sends cortisol and adrenaline out, within less than 14 seconds of that image appearing in the brain, like when Wren found out what happened to a middle school math and science teacher in Connecticut, she was very upset, right, sweetheart? Yeah, so tapping on this experience will help to not only keep the oxygen in the prefrontal cortex, but within 11 to 14 seconds of hearing about an event that's disturbing, your capillaries in your prefrontal cortex will constrict 70%. And so keep on tapping. And so it just looks entirely different than, it produces an entirely different system of reaction in the brain when you do the tapping. Instead of, I thought I had the picture of it, but instead of having the capillaries constrict 70%, thereby reducing the oxygen flow, so you won't be able to really think about the next best thing. You would be in reaction mode. So when you're doing the tapping, then the capillaries do stay open. So they're not shut down, they stay open. And in that case, you can actually have instead a response. In this case, you know there's two things that we do have. One is that we have choice, right, and how we're going to handle this situation. And sometimes when an event is really upsetting or you get triggered, you kind of shut down, like the amygdala just says, I'm going to go for it and send a stress signal out to everything, especially if you have a long history of abuse in any way. And so, so definitely be talking with health professionals and with your family, the ones that you trust, because what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be doing the tapping, because what it does is it moves the energy of the response so we can have a different experience. So for Wren, you were saying you were very, very upset because this teacher, his name is Louis Goffinet. I put it down here for you so that we can have everybody know, and I'll put that up front again in a little bit, but keep on tapping. The name is Louis Goffin, and he was or is a math and science teacher, and what he did was a very good Samaritan thing to do. He went around when the beginning of the pandemic happened, and he found people who were his dad said, you know, this person needs food, can you bring some? So he actually ended up raising, I guess it was through Facebook, for over $41,000 and getting 2 more volunteers, and he actually made lists of like the children's favorite snacks, like kids that didn't have snacks or food because the schools were closed at the beginning of the pandemic. So this person needs to have, because the IRS then went and charged him $16,000 in taxes. So what Louis Goffin, the teacher in the middle school, you know, has to do is he has to pay these taxes. So we were thinking if everybody could help out and send some money to someplace, you know, directly to someplace like the Mansfield Center, which is the social services department that was helping him to distribute, you know, some of, or give him ideas on who needs help. And their zip code is right there. And they're in Mansfield, Connecticut, 06250. And just put, you know, for helping Louis Goffin pay his $16,000 in taxes. I'll put that up again. So what we're going to tap on first is that idea of lowering our stress hormones so that we can think about what would be the next best thing to do. And also tapping also raises our immunoglobulin levels 113%. So one of the things that happens in the pandemic, and let's just start doing a little bit of tapping right on the inner eye. We'll do some rounds of tapping as we're talking. So we are getting closer to where a lot of Americans are being vaccinated. But the CDC is also saying, because we would have to reach an 80% vaccination threshold to get closer to that herd immunity where we can start going to the movies again. So let's think about, let's do the tapping so that we can reduce our cortisol levels so that we can think about the next best thing to do in a situation such as Louis Goffinet's. So one of the things that Wren and I were talking about was that in my area, I work as a critical care nurse and sometimes have to go over this hill, big set of mountains called the Santa Cruz Mountains. People call it going over the hill. But parts of the hill are actually sloped like this when you're going around a corner this way. So there's a lot of accidents that happen. And so basically every week I would have to stop at an accident, as according to the Good Samaritan law. The Good Samaritan laws, they come from the parable of the Good Samaritan, and that's out of the Bible in Luke 10:29 to 37, where a Samaria traveler, that was like an area of the world, aided another traveler who had conflicting religious and ethnic backgrounds, and that traveler was beaten and robbed by bandits. So the plan was to have this parable of the Good Samaritan. That was the Good Samaritan law was named after that parable, and it offers legal protection for those who might be otherwise hesitant to stop at an accident. But so it prevents them from being sued if they give reasonable assistance to those who have been injured or are in peril or are otherwise incapacitated. So this Good Samaritan law is to lower bystanders' hesitation to assist for fear of being sued or prosecuted for unintentional injury or death. And so every week I was having to stop at, some accident happening on the 17 highway going over the mountains. But with the Good Samaritan law, as long as you're not going to get hurt yourself, if you're out in the field and you don't have the usual things that you would have in a hospital in critical care, then you can only offer so much. And so feeling inside, Wren was saying, this is really, really, really upsetting that this person who was going around being a Good Samaritan, Louis Goffin in Connecticut, and then was charged $16,000 in taxes for the $41,000 that he raised, that he used to purchase things for other people and get food to those who had need through the liaisons of the Social Services Department. So we want to say, well, the brain has two settings, right? It has a default setting, which is negative. And that says that no matter what happens, you can go to this great party and have a great time. And then somebody asks, well, how was the party? And you say, well, the spinach was too salty. And so it's like the brain will automatically go to a negativity bias. It's set that way with a good reason. But when we are in, and that makes us feel like a victim to keep us alive, right? But there's a difference between victimhood, and just keep on following with the tapping, or victim consciousness. So we can say, all right, so this happened to Louis Goffin, right? And instead of saying that this happened to us, say that happened to us, right? We can say this happened for us, right? And then how can we respond? Because in that way, then we have a choice. And we have a choice in how we can respond to something like this, right? Because then people aren't going to go around helping and assisting others if they don't know that it's okay to do that, right? And that they're not going to be fined $16,000. Like, that's more than, I think he said it would take him a year of work to make that. So we want to think about, how we can see a conflict, right? And we tap, so that what we do is we're tapping the feelings that are inside, they're rising up inside of us. And what happens when we're tapping is, no matter what's going on, right, the tapping is moving that energy. That's what it's doing. So you don't even have to know what the feeling is. All you have to say is, I have this feeling inside of me, and it's making my heart race, and it's making me, feel uncomfortable, or making my heart ache. So when we tap on those things, then we move that energy, and then it moves the energy of the response, so we can have a different experience, right? It opens up choice. So in this matter, I think what I was thinking was that if they say that if Louis Goffin had not had his money donated through a Facebook account, right, then perhaps his local government could talk to the IRS and find out, is there, a way that people can donate to Mansfield Center. That's the name of their little local government center that he found out who needed help. And then it's in Mansfield, Connecticut at 0606250. And that would go to benefit Louis Goffin for his taxes. So we can let the local government communicate and help Louis Goffin, and we could maybe donate $10 to the local government, because the local government, that is an established institution. Apparently in the news, I forget what the radio station or news station in Connecticut, they were, right, Wren, were they saying that if he had gone through an organization, if he'd been in an organization like a police station or a fire department or something like that, then his contributions, that $41,000, would not have been taxed. So, so we just want to know that anything that goes to Facebook, you'll be, you know, if you're raising money for something, that is going to be taxed. So if you yourself aren't an actual organization or belonging to something like Jacob's Heart for cancer. Okay, so let's talk about, we'll do some tapping on the pandemic because that was the cause of this whole thing to begin with, that people were not having enough food and things in the pandemic. So let's start tapping on radiant health, right? And we're going to tap in, after we tap on any resistance to radiant health, we're going to tap in some great ideas like how you are feeling, right? So we're going to start by stating a setup statement 3 times and repeat after me. Even though I feel really upset about this situation, I deeply and completely accept my feelings inside of me, and I accept and love myself exactly as I am. Nice. Even though I have these feelings inside of me that are creating quite a ruckus inside, I'm allowing myself to get centered, and I love myself exactly as I am. Even though I'm having these feelings inside of me, this rage and this anger at the situation, I let it go from my mind. I let it go from my body. I let it go from all my organs. And I love myself and accept myself with everything inside of me exactly as I am. This resistance, I'm having this resistance to radiant health. I have these intense feelings inside of me, this rage and this anger. Oh, here's a point for rage, for anger, bitterness, and resentment. It's just like where for women, it's where your bra line is. So just, you can tap right there. And that is your acupuncture, it's a liver point in acupuncture. And that holds anger, bitterness, and resentment. So if you have any really strong feelings about the situation, you're really pissed off about it, you can tap here for a little bit longer, right underneath there. And then underneath the arm, I have this rage about this situation. What a crazy situation. There's a pandemic. The kids are home. They were needing food. And the teacher brought them their favorite snacks. He reached out and asked. And now he's being asked to pay back almost half of what he raised. This feeling inside, it could be sadness, but it's just an emotion. Tapping moves the energy. And emotion is energy in motion. And tapping will bring that up. I might cry. That's okay. I might start yawning. And that's okay. I deeply accept myself. And I let it all go. I let these feelings go from my mind, from my body, from my soul. I walk in radiant health. I talk in radiant health. I am talking and walking in radiant health. And whatever I do to improve the performance of mask right now will speed our control of this pandemic. That's Dr. John Brooks, CDC response team. I am healthy, radiantly healthy, in my mind, my body, and my soul. Thanks, Wren. Good luck with the fundraising.